Hi, Gretchen. I wish you good health. And typically, are recreated. This title comes from the proverb, and we are made of the same clay, which means all humans share the same creation and mortality. Mortality means nobody lives forever. So, this title invites us to help rescue and support each other. The events of our story are real and took place in a small town in Colombia, in which a volcano erupted and melted all ice on mountains, and um, ice covered all the town in Colombia, and all people died. But one girl, Omaira Sanchez, trapped in the mud, and she attracted all journalists and reporters to photograph her. So, Omaira Sanchez, this girl, suffered from trapping in the mud, and she wants someone to rescue her life. All people in her town, after they gave her a name Asina, which means a flower. So all people in her town um, called her Asina, which means a flower in Spanish, of course. Our character named Ralph Carla, a journalist who attempted to rescue Asina's life. Okay, so this journalist tries to help Asina, um, and he tried to use all tools to pull her up out of mud or rubble. Rubble means mud. When I say Asina trapped in the mud or in the rubble, which means fragments of rocks and stones. Now, I wanted to highlight the whole paragraph here and focus on 2 points: the traits or characteristics of Asina, and number two, two figures of speech here. Number these lines one, two, three. Now, the first trait that her head protruding from the mud, which means her head just, or her just, her head is only above the mud. Can you imagine that? Number two, her eyes were wide open. Number three, calling soundlessly. So these are the traits of this girl in the mud. Her eyes were wide open because of fear. She can't call, and her head is above the mud. Okay. The two figures of speech here, order of death, and her head dwelling like a black squash or squash from the clay. Now, here the figure of speech is metaphor, and here is simile. The order of death here. Death is surrounding the girl as Sina. Of course, this is not her real photo. You have to find her photo from internet. Now, the author here compares death to odor to the smell of death, okay? Which attracting all vultures, all birds. You know that vultures are birds like eating their bodies, okay? Let's say that the author he is trying to help you imagine the events here. Number two, her head looks like a black squash. Squash or means crush of the clay. So here metaphor, here simile. Okay, and these are the three traits or characteristics of Asina. Move to the next page, page 219. I want you to focus on these words: subterranean, which means underground, and seismographs, which means instruments used to record the earthquakes. Okay? Highlight the first 4 lines. You have to know that these lines show that geologists had predicted or expected a disaster coming up and warned all the people in the town, but no one heeded or listened to their warnings. Okay? So, you have to focus here on two figures of speech. Line one, simile, and here we have personification. Simile here that you have to know that the cotton fields, okay, you know that this town in Colombia is famous of planting cotton. So the cotton fields after the eruption looks like waves of foam. This is simile. Number two, the mountain. So, and this mountain has a volcano. Okay, so the mountain had awakened. Here we have personification. The author here personified mountain as a human who had awakened. Okay, or who got up. Okay, now you have to know that the events happened on Wednesday night in November. Okay, now I wanted to highlight these lines because these lines show the results of this disaster. That places, churches, houses had disappeared, Many animals and humans died. Soldiers and volunteers arrived to rescue the living bodies or the living humans there. Okay, and I wanted to focus on this line: animals putrefying in a viscous soup. Here, the author used imagery. Okay, uh, and I want you to move to the bottom here and focus on the word putrefying, number 8, which means rotting in thick soup. Look at this imagination. Okay, because the author here wants to send a message that you have to uh, feel pity towards this disaster. Okay, now I want to focus on this line that Ralph, Carla, and I were together. That I refers to the narrator. Who is the narrator? Is the author Isabel. So Isabel is the narrator and the writer of this story, and she watched the events of this disaster. Why? Because she is Ralph Carla girlfriend. So here you have to know that who is telling the story? Who is telling the story? Isabel. Isabel is the narrator and the writer, plus she is Ralph Carla's girlfriend. Okay. Now, I want you to highlight the last four lines, and you have to focus on that these lines show that Ralph Carla reached the place or arrived the place of Asina. Okay, next page. You have to focus on the word avalanche, which means snowfall, because avalanche is a disaster after the eruption. One, two, three, four. These are the traits of Ralph, or the characteristics of Ralph. That he is a familiar figure in newscast. Numbers 2, he has tenacity, and you know the meaning of tenacity, which means holding persistently to something, or determination. Number 2, equanimity, coolness or calm state, and fortitude, which means courage. One, two, three, four. These are the traits of Ralph Carla, the journalist. Okay, now you know that all journalists carry cameras to photograph and take photos of any event, right? Now, the question here says that you have to describe the effect of camera lens on Ralph Carla. This is the answer. This is the answer that the effect of camera transported him to a different time. Okay? So this is the answer of this question. Uh, this is the answer. Okay? Now his camera zoomed where? Just 1 minute, please. Now, you have to know that his camera zoomed in on the girl, okay, Leon Astina, and he is questioning her like, and what's your name? Don't move, Astina. What's the meaning of your name? He's trying to distract her. He doesn't want her to think of her situation, so he is questioning her just to distract her and to lose her attention. Let's move to the next page. Here you have to focus on this question here. Sorry. The question says, why can't the rescuers pull Asina out? Okay, this is the answer. Just wait, because the bodies of her brothers and sisters are clinging to her legs. So this is the reason why the rescuers can't pull her out. Why? Because the bodies of her brothers and sisters, what? Are clinging to her legs. Okay. So this is the page 221. So look at the question here. This is the answer. This is the question and this is the answer. Now, poles and ropes. Now, I will number the tools Ralph used to rescue Asina's life. Number 1, poles and ropes. Number 2, he asked a couple of soldiers to pull her out, but they leave Uh, he asked a couple of soldiers to pull her out, but they had left to rescue other victims. Uh, Number three, he asked for a pump. So these are the three ways Ralph used to rescue Asina's life. Number one, using ropes and poles. Number two, asking soldiers to uh, pull her out, but no one listened to him. They had left to rescue other victims. And number three, he asked for a pump because pump can drain water around her so they can pull her easily. Okay?